Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with veteran jazz drummer, composer, and bandleader Franklin Kiermyer. We caught up with him in May 2020 during the COVID-19 lockdown to discuss his life and music and the surreal world we are living in. Originally from Montreal, Quebec, he came to prominence in the 90s during his long residency in New York City. His work is inspired by a variety of spiritual musicians, including the late period of John Coltrane and his quartet, of McCoy Tyner, Elvin and Jimmy Garrison. His story is full of great tales. Enjoy.
Well, let's talk about your roots. Talk to me a little bit about where you were born and raised and kind of how jazz became your life.
I was born and raised in Montreal, Canada. Left to travel on the road when I was a teenager and ended up spending many years living in New York City before I started moving around again, living in various places, but always back in New York City as my base. Grew up in a family that loved music. My grandfather was a dancer on the circuit of Charleston and Jitterbug. My mother was involved in that too, but my father had a record collection that influenced me the most, so I grew up listening to a lot of big band music, a lot of symphonic and chamber music too, but really it was the big band stuff and the New Orleans music that really got to me. So when I was a little kid, I loved Fats Waller, loved Kid Ory, I loved a lot of Louis Armstrong, and of course then Gene Krupa and stuff like that. And being a drummer, I was really influenced by Gene Krupa and Minor Hall and Big Sid Catlett, Baby Dolls and stuff like that. And then, of course, that's when I was very young. And then, it just went on from there. I grew up at a wonderful time in history for music and a wonderful geography. Montreal being 5 or 6 hour drive from New York, it was always part of the East Coast touring scene. So by the time I was a teenager, I was going to concerts yearly with people like Dexter Gordon and Elvin Jones and Charles Mingus and so on and so forth.
You've been at this for quite a while now. What do you like the best about being a musician?
Playing music.
Yeah.
That's what I like the best. I like playing music. I feel very fortunate to be around so many brilliant and gifted and deeply soulful people. So I think those are the two things I like the best. I can also list the things I like the least, but those are certainly the two things.
Well, I would think on your list of things you like the least, probably having some time away from the road would probably help, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I love the time that I'm back with my family as I am now. I think that any opportunity where they could be with me, places that I travel, will be fantastic. That's a wonderful thing. And it certainly nourishes me to be back with the family. It's also fantastic for the music to kind of be out there and be on the edge. The traveling is what can take its toll. You just have to be very, very mindful and gentle with yourself so that when you arrive someplace, you're prepared to perform.
You've had a lot of moments on stage, and now that we don't have live music, are there any memories that have come to mind that have really kind of made you smile, or just good memories that have kind of fueled your imagination during this time of quarantine?
I think, like a lot of other artists, the stuff that's mostly motivates me is the last thing I did.
Yeah.
I'm always fueled by that, and noticing the bit of progress I made and the hope for another opportunity to go deeper. There have been a lot of situations, a lot of experiences that have given me so much. I can't really point out one that stands out more than all the others, but opened a festival in Germany, the Moors Festival, last June, and that concert was particularly memorable because of how the band was functioning, and also the way that the concert was set. Yeah, it was a wonderful. But we just played jazz at Lincoln Center, Dizzy's a couple of months ago, and that was marvelous too. I mean, really, even the small things that we do. It's really about the music. For me, it really is about the opportunity to play and how deep we can go with it, how far we can go with it. So that's what really excites me.
I guess another question I have, COVID-19 related, everyone has their own story now of like when they realized this was happening and live music was going to go away, say mid-March. Talk to me a little bit about your journey, like how you figured it out, gigs that were canceled, kind of your story of how this all unfolded.
I was in the middle of a few weeks of intense work with the band in New York, and we were recording every day and really moving ahead. And we had some really important, what we felt were very important performances just coming up, and we had a lot of touring set. I'm working on a lot of plans, things were set and things were coming in, and this was, let's say, mid-March, I guess. At first, I thought, well, this is going to be okay in a few days. And then I thought, oh my, this is not going away. There's a lot of information that has not been shared effectively, and we're just starting to figure out what's going on. And then I realized that I needed to get, back to my family before everything got completely shut down. So I think it was in the last week of March.
Yeah.
More or less.
Yep.
So anyway, I cut that trip short by a couple of weeks and just canceled everything. And we had, it's a long story, but we had some pretty elaborate plans for these performances coming up in April. And so everything just started getting canceled, and it just went on from there. It's kind of like a when you light a string of firecrackers. I don't know if you if you know what I'm talking about, but it's just one goes off after another. And so that gig was canceled, and then a month later, 3 months later, 5 months later, and by the time I got back here, most of the plans for the fall were put on hold. I started getting emails about trying to rebook things, as they said, for 2021.
Well, when we do get back to the live stage, what do you hope both the musician and the audience member realizes about music during this absence?
I think people already have an increased sense of how precious it is. I think something that is startling all of us is the unprecedented nature of what's happened. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find another time in recorded history where all live music performances have been shut down.
Yeah.
I don't think there's another time in human history, recorded history, where there hasn't been live music happening.
I agree.
In one form, whether it's ritual or, and that's pretty amazing. Now, a broader view is that for the first time in the Kathmandu Valley, you can actually see Mount Everest.
Yeah.
I think Mexico City, LA, a lot of places, Tokyo, a lot of places around the world are experiencing Mother Nature sighing a breath of relief.
Yeah.
So, it's a very interesting time, and I think there's a lot of very heavy lessons. But for sure, I really do believe that music is the healing force of the universe, and somehow just a prayer to share music again has some healing characteristics to it.
Absolutely. Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're the one living your life. Who do you think you are?
I'm not sure I know how to answer that. To say who I am to myself is, do you remember when barbershops used to have mirrors on both sides so that you'd be sitting in the chair? I remember this from when I was a little kid. These old-fashioned barbershops where you'd look in the mirror in front of you and you'd see the mirror in back of you, and it would go on to infinity because the reflections just keep repeating themselves.
Yeah.
So that question reminds me of that. There's no real way I can answer that, because to be succinct about it, the very nature of the self has no substance. So how can I define who I am?
And that right there is a great answer. With just that's a great visual. Hey man, thank you for taking some time out. Stay safe. Good luck with everything. I appreciate your story, man.
Thank you very much, Joe. Thanks for the opportunity, and I hope you and your family stay safe and healthy too.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Montreal, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Franklin for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit NeonJazz at YouTube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.